Carrasco, and thank you for reading.
Manny Pacquiao, the gold, I don't think there'll be a problem for Manny.
As it shares their fights. But every once in a while, the mind can also be controlled and nothing. Again, happening to nothing.
Ako po si Associated Filipino Television, 4 p.m. only here on Para sa Bayan.
That's the opening bell for Round by Round presented by Eastern Communications. Mabuhay Pilipinas, welcome world. I'm Nisi Casiano.
And I'm Dennis Principe. Ryan Songalia will join us later on in the show.
Tonight on the program, it's impossible not to discuss the big fight happening this weekend. Of course, I'm talking about the Canelo Alvarez versus Caleb Plant fight at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's for all the marbles. For the very first time in boxing history, an undisputed champion at 168 pounds will be crowned. Dennis, a lot of people hold Canelo in high regard, with some, including yours truly, brand him as the most complete boxer of this generation because of his brilliance on both offensive and defensive ends. And kung titignan natin, ang odds, hands down, siyang tinitignan na pwedeng manalo. At kung tatanungin din natin ang mga kasama natin sa industriya, no one is giving Caleb Plant a chance to win this fight. But let's play devil's advocate here. Do you see qualities in Caleb Plant that could pose a problem against Canelo Alvarez on fight night?
Well, for sure, sa tagal natin nagko-cover ng sport of boxing, you cannot belittle anyone. No? The more that you belittle an opponent, the more na malalagay ka sa alanganin. Ang problema lang ni Caleb Plant is that apart from all the aspects ni Canelo Alvarez sa binanggit mo, is one of the most disciplined fighters, at alam natin yung kanyang ability to come back from adversities. He was beaten by Floyd Mayweather Jr. Nakita natin kung gaano siya bumalik. He was able to rebound big time from that loss. Now, Caleb Plant, while yun nga sinasabi natin, you cannot underestimate any fighter. I believe that Caleb Plant, being from a place wherein talaga naman masabing they're aching to see a boxing hero to come out from their area. That itself could serve as a motivation for Caleb Plant. And remember, yung kanilang press conference, nagkaroon ng
mainit.
Mainit, personalan. So that may favor, that may add fuel to whatever fire, however small that may be, on the part of Caleb Plant.
Totoo yun, at hindi naman kilala ang Nashville, Tennessee pagdating sa boxing. And also, totoo, I would agree kasi lalo na may tinatawag na puncher's chance pagdating sa sport of boxing. And also, I would agree that Plant has distinct characteristics as a fighter. But the problem here is, Dennis, is if those good qualities will be able to hold out against Canelo Alvarez, because of course, ang maiisip ko dyan, of course, may quickness si Caleb Plant, and of course, may above-average footwork, and he'd be a test for any super middleweight. But at the level of Canelo Alvarez, meron akong qualms ng konti. And Caleb Plant is dealing with a boxer who has the most savage body punching in the game today, and a boxer who has undeniable defense thanks to his head movement, and a boxer who has one of the best chins in the game. And ang problema ko dito, Dennis, is Caleb Plant is not a big puncher to throw Canelo off his game. Now, Dennis, Caleb Plant has a tall order in front of him. And it's an understatement. Now, does he have the skills to, stretch this out? Kasi for him to reach this level, of course, it attests na he has the skills. But to me, it's really up to Caleb Plant to determine how long this fight goes. But to you, what should Caleb Plant do to stretch this out and make it really competitive and difficult for the judges to score the round, per round?
Well, the skill is there, no? Caleb Plant is able to prove that. Although yung power niya, he may have stopped more than half of his opponent, and people were talking about yung sinasabing kanyang punching power when he knocked out Mike Lee, or when he stopped Mike Lee, you know. Mike Lee fell several times, no, in that bout. Nakalimutan ko lang kung ilan, no? And then later on, he was able to score I think another knockout, no, in his next two fights, ano. But kung titignan naman natin yung resume, malayo pa rin talaga si Canelo Alvarez, ano. I think his best chance really is to start, not really to start strong, ano, but to start a wise fight plan, ano. Hangga't maaari, no, he needs to establish, no, yung kanyang momentum, and then dalhin siya hanggang sa dulo ng kanilang 12-round title fight with enough momentum, because right now I don't see him hurting really with just one punch, no, si Canelo Alvarez. And another thing is that he should avoid, you know, the solid blows of Canelo Alvarez. Doon sa aspeto na yun, I think he can do that. He has that ability. He'll get tagged a few times, you know, but as to the volume, yun ang dapat niyang iwasan dito against Canelo Alvarez.
Yan ang aabangan natin on Fight Night this weekend. And of course, Dennis, pag-usapan na natin yung inaabangan na isa pang aspeto ng laban na to, yung historical significance of it. As I mentioned earlier, the 168-pound division will herald its first undisputed champion since its inception in 1967. Matagal natin hindi narinig yung salitang undisputed champion, and I believe it took 10 years para makakita tayo ng undisputed champion in the form of Terence Crawford in 2017. Now, when he defeated ito nga si Julius Indongo, nasundan pa ito ni Josh Taylor, Alexander Usyk, Claressa Shields, and Katie Taylor. Now, Canelo Alvarez, who's regarded as the face of boxing today and the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, is now taking part of a unification fight that can be considered as a high risk. So sa akin, malaki impact ito sa sport of boxing. It is something that Canelo's superstar predecessors such as Oscar De La Hoya, Floyd Mayweather, and Manny Pacquiao have never done in their career. It also fosters yun nga ang tinatawag na culture of the best fighting the best. Tingin mo ba, Dennis, itong laban na to can encourage promoters, fighters, and even the organizations to push for every division should have one king?
As far as the organizations are concerned, we saw one encouraging photo, at least sa akin. No? I don't know if this was shown in public. I think it was an event in Puerto Rico wherein bigyan natin si Sean Gibbons. He showed me a picture in a hotel room, with all four presidents ng boxing organizations. And yun nga lang, nakalimutan ko po, hindi ko pa natatanong kung bakit nandun, ano ba talaga pinag-usapan, is there a chance for them to unify? It's still far-fetched, because the bottom line is business pa rin ito. It's all about business. And can you imagine just one champion? Paano na yung ibang organizations, paano sila maghahati-hati sa business of it? So malabo pa rin yan. But, para sa akin, I would still encourage having, ito na yung most probably for boxing organizations, because it adds glitter to match-ups. Kasi kung isa lang and then puro challenger, maganda nga ngayon, one champion with two belts, the other one with one belt, maglalaban sila, both are legitimate champions. So it's a unique situation for boxing to have a few champions, pero yun nga lang, eventually dapat merong isang magiging undisputed champion, because boxing naman, or unified champion, because kung makikita mo naman, ang isang champion naman, matagal na yung 2-3 years na maging undisputed or unified. So nagkakaroon ng glamour, nagkakaroon ng legitimacy. Pero alam mo, ang interesting sa akin dito, and probably this is one thing na pwedeng pag-usapan in the near future. So Canelo Alvarez is about to, if ever, if he wins this fight, he'll be creating history as a first unified champion. Baka ito na yung cue na inaantay ng mga fans ni Andre Ward na magsagawa ng comeback at hamunin niya just one time, Canelo Alvarez.
One thing is certain, that history will be made this weekend, and of course, round by round, we'll give you your fix of post-fight analysis on Monday. So make sure to tune in this coming Monday. Magic Mike Plania will be returning to action on November 20 against Ricardo Nunes of Panama. The bout will be held in Miami, Florida. It is scheduled for 8 rounds. Dennis, kung matatandaan natin, last year ay tinalo ni Mike Plania ang isang top prospect in the form of Joshua Greer Jr. It's a big win. But they have, itong Sandman promotion, they have yet to ride on that momentum. I understand that they have to take an activity fight against Emmanuel Mugawa last April dito sa bansa natin. Now, Plania is in the same position because he is fighting a veteran with 41 fights, but Nunes hasn't won a fight since 2017 and has lost his last 5 fights, if I'm not mistaken. Are we looking at a case that, it's better to have a fight than no fight at all?
Without a doubt, Nisi, because you have to consider din ang situation natin ngayon. Although nagkakaroon na tayo ng konting leeway with our movement, with activities, overall, but the pandemic still exists. Meron pa rin tayong iniinda. So, maswerte ka na rin talaga if you get to fight in a card, especially for the likes of Mike Plania na whether he likes it or not, hindi pa rin siya pang main event. The only way for him to fight is for his promoters to include him in major events. Now, tama ka, he's coming off a huge win against Joshua Greer, one of the top prospects at that time of Top Rank Incorporated. So kung ito na available, Ricardo Nunes, while he's having actually a losing streak, but this guy has fought the best during his time. I remember he even fought one of our very own, si Drian Francisco, in a title fight. So veteran na ito. Alam mo, yan ang isang dapat maintindihan ng mga fight fans. Kahit na sabihin mong losing streak ang isang boxer, pero kung dati naman niya world champion or dating world title challenger, mahirap pa rin kalaban niya because fighters like Ricardo Nunes, yan talaga wala ng takot yan. Walang respeto yan sa mga katulad ni Mike Plania because still at the back of his mind, front and side, Nunes will still believe. And Nunes will still believe that bata ka pa, kaya kita. Kaya pa rin kita.
Well, Dennis, Plania is number 4 in the WBO, number 9 in the IBF, if I'm not mistaken, number 15 in the WBC, number 5 in the WBA. Do you think his position in those 4 rankings explains why his promoter and manager, JC Manangkil, is taking a slow burn approach with Plania?
Alam mo, it's good that you mentioned that. JC Manangkil is a good friend of mine. I love that kid. I love the family. I love the brothers. Pati yung mga kaibigan niya. I've known him for more than a decade. Elementary pa lang ata yan. Nagpo-promote na yan. When I got to meet him. Isa lang ang, if ever, he's a very ideal manager, promoter. Hindi ka lolokohin. Hindi niya naman kailangan manloko. Isa lang talaga kung meron man akong pupunahin kay JC Manangkil, that is yung madali siyang matempt to take on the best fighters of the division ng kanyang mga boxers na kung tutuusin, up and coming pa lang. Pag may naghamon, pasok agad. I think this time, medyo pabor kay Mike Plania, si Mike Plania na medyo magpahinog pa hasain pa yung kanyang konti. So if his time will come, no, isa na lang ang matitira dyan sa nabanggit natin. No? And that will be a perfect timing for Mike Plania. So this is a good step for him. No? Take these activities until such time na yung mga nabanggit natin mga star champions or superstar champions, matira na lang, nag-iisa.
Speaking of yun nga, para ma-develop si Mike Plania, kung lalagyan mo ng timeline ito si Mike Plania, ilang taon ang ibibigay mo para mahubog siya? And at the same time, to prepare him for the top caliber boxers at 122. Kasi meron Ryusuke Iwasawa, may Reish Alim, may Luis Neri, and the likes.
The fighters that you mentioned, all of them are like Plania, challengers, and sinasabing probably mga fighters that will take the places of these current champions. So nandun lang siya, si Mike Plania, parang he's at the same level as these fighters. Doon sa question mo about how long should it take for Plania to finally aim for a title, 1 year would be enough. At least 3 fights, 3 quality fights. That will prepare him well. Because 1 year from now, he'll only be 25. Actually, kung magtsatsaga pa nga, gawin mo ng 26. I remember how Jerry Peñalosa was groomed to become a title challenger. Naging mandatory siya ng lahat ng mga boxing organizations until he got the opportunity to fight si Hiroshi Kawashima. As the mandatory challenger. He was, I think, 25, 26. Pero hinug na. Ano nangyari? For the next 10 years, tumagal yung kanyang career. We're talking about Jerry Peñalosa. So if you want to be a long-time champion, especially in a division that's very tough, 1 to 2 years, bigyan pa si Mike Plania, and ang magiging resulta niya would be he'll most likely become a long-time world champion.
Well said, Chief. For our next segment, let's turn it over to our colleague, Ryan Songalia.
If you followed Manny Pacquiao during his early years in America, the name Lenny DeJesus will automatically ring a bell. The New Yorker had been the cut man for Pacquiao for his fights with Marco Antonio Barrera, Juan Manuel Marquez, and Eric Morales. And it also worked with other Filipino boxers as well, including Jerry Peñalosa, Michael Fereñas, and Marvin Mabayat. DeJesus has decades of experience in the sport, working as a trainer and manager as well. It's a pleasure to catch up with the 76-year-old living legend.
Ryan Songalia, round by round, here with Lenny DeJesus. First off, we're here in Atlantic City. Your latest fighter just scored a first-round knockout, Anthony DeMonte. Tell me, what is it that you like about Anthony?
He's a very well-educated fighter, and those are rare athletes in this time and these days. And he has a great potential to do great in boxing. Also, being that his heritage is Italian, and everybody loves him. When he comes in to fight, whether it be 4 rounds, 6 rounds, he brings all his people, and they come to cheer a great Italian fighter that he's going to be.
Mm-hmm. So Filipino fans will remember you from your work with Manny Pacquiao in his corner. Tell me, you were his cut man. You were the one who fixed the cut in the first Eric Morales fight, right? When he had that very nasty cut, and it really seemed to it was one of the worst cuts he'd ever had in his career. Can you tell me about that cut and trying to fix that and keep him, because you kept him in the fight through all 12 rounds. Can you tell me about working on that cut?
Well, the experience that I've had in being an all-around cornerman, I became a cutman because it was more in demand. And I was in boxing more as a cutman than a trainer, and I loved it. When I had the opportunity to work with Pacquiao, I showed my trade that night, and Pacquiao, instead of the fight being stopped, he went all 12 rounds, and he got 35 stitches on that cut, but we lasted the whole fight, which was very important for Pacquiao. Had he been stopped on that fight, his not his credibility, but his stock would have gone down a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I kept that from happening.
So tell me about working with Manny Pacquiao. What are your favorite memories of working in his corner and just being around him?
When I first worked with Pacquiao, felt that he was going to be a great fighter because he had what a lot of people want to have: power on both hands. And he was a great puncher, a great knockout artist at the weight class that he fought. He fought in various, 3 or 4 weight classes. And when he touched you, you really felt it. And that's what I love about Pacquiao. A great Filipino fighter, Manny Pacquiao.
When you first started working with him, and I believe that was when he first came to America, right? Like 2001 or so?
Yes.
Did you ever imagine that he would be a senator and then now he's going to run for president?
You know something? In boxing, you see a lot of things happening with athletes. But I never thought that Pacquiao was going to be, a senator or a president. I wish him the best. He's a great human being. He helped his people, which that's the greatest thing an athlete could do, because he came from a poor neighborhood, poor growing up. And now that he has the wealth, he's helping his people.
You also worked with Roberto Duran, one of the greatest fighters of all time. Can you talk to me about just comparing the two, Manny Pacquiao and Roberto Duran? How are they similar? Are they very different? And what would your thoughts be if they ever fought?
The only thing I could say on that question as an answer, both of them were poor. And they came from, I would go as far and say, not insulting anybody, they came from the gutter. And they produced something that a lot of people love in fighters that come out from poverty, despair, and poorness and everything. And look what they both did. Manny Pacquiao became one of the greatest fighters in Manila, and Duran became one of the top Panamanian fighters in his country. So you got to give them both a great credit.
So, if they were ever to have fought, who do you think would have came out on top?
2 street fighters, I would go as far as saying, like the old saying, pick 'em.
So, another Filipino fighter that you worked with, Jerry Peñalosa. Tell me about working with Jerry Peñalosa.
When I worked with Peñalosa, he had a great experience, but time took its toll on him. Had I had him earlier, I think he would have been a great fighter like Manny Pacquiao because he was a good, well-mannered, educated individual. And I love him very much. Peñalosa was great.
Do you agree with Freddie Roach? Freddie Roach said that Jerry Peñalosa is the best skilled Filipino boxer of all time.
I can't say that because I didn't see all his fights. I only saw the end of his career. You could say yes and you could say no because I didn't have that kind of experience that Freddie Roach had with him.
Mm-hmm. And lastly, I just want to ask you, because you go way back in terms of some of the great fighters of all time. You were in the house when Flash Elorde, many consider the greatest Filipino boxer of all time, when he fought Carlos Ortiz. I believe he fought another one, Frankie Narvaez.
Frankie Narvaez, yes.
Yeah, it was a good friend of yours.
Yes.
Well, what are your memories of Flash Elorde fighting in the Garden?
I was really surprised at that time in my life. Freddie Elorde, he brought a lot of his people into the United States to see him fight. And, he was a great fighter, and I said, well, listen, that was Freddie Elorde's time. Now we have a Manny Pacquiao. Comparing, I think Pacquiao better. Not 100% better than Freddie Elorde. But Freddie Elorde had his time before the great Puerto Rican guy, Carlos Ortiz, and it was a great fight.
Were you there when at the Flash Elorde and Frankie Narvaez riot?
Yes, I was there.
Tell me firsthand experience.
Every Latin person there got mad when they gave a decision. And Puerto Ricans are very fan crazy, I would go and say, out there people, and they made a riot and they broke the whole garden and they closed the garden for a whole year. And they stopped boxing in the garden. Then they moved the garden from that area to where it is now on 34th Street and 9th Avenue.
Mm-hmm. Yes, 8th Avenue and 9th Avenue.
And they moved it from there, but that was a big hit on the garden, the old garden. which is a very good place.
How did you stay safe? Were there chairs flying, bottles? What was going on?
No. I had my people protecting me at that time. And Muhammad Ali fought there in Fort Roy Jones. He fought there and he lost, and they gave it to Muhammad Ali, the first fight that Ali had in the United States.
Yes. Where he was hurt in the first round, they called it the Doug Jones. Yeah, Doug Jones, yes.
Doug Jones.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And he lost, and they gave it to Muhammad Ali. I was there also.
What was the best fight that you ever saw in the Garden?
You know, at that time, I'll be honest with you, I think everybody was good because in those days, everybody trained properly to give their all, and they got paid less than what they get paid today. And those were good fighters because they put their all in the line, no matter what. And I think every fighter that does his work, his homework, his training, his weight and class and everything, I think they're all great to me.
It's time for our Fearless Fighter of the Day, brought to you by Eastern Communications. And he's none other than Renz Rocha, a southpaw from Cadiz City, Negros Occidental. He holds a professional record of 17 wins, 9 losses, and 1 draw, with 9 victories by way of knockout. Rocha is a former world title contender facing Moruti Metelani in a losing effort in December of 2015. Since then, he's on the path to redemption, scoring wins over Philippine boxing household names such as Benezer Alolod and Aston Palicte. Most recently, he defeated Chris Paulino in a rematch, scoring a TKO victory in the 6th round to capture the Philippine Super Flyweight Championship. Renz Rocha is our Fearless Fighter. Now is the time for reliable connections. Eastern Communications Fiber One is ideal for powering small, medium enterprises that are on their way to digitizing their business and pushing forward to a strong and fearless tomorrow. Do contact 53007000 or visit their website eastern.com.ph for more information about the service. And that's our Eastern Communications Fearless Fighter of the Day. And that's the final bell for today's episode of Round by Round, presented by Eastern Communications. I'm Nisi Casiano.
And I'm Dennis Principe, and we are on Facebook at 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, and on YouTube. Nandun din po tayo. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe para po malaman ninyo ang latest happenings in the sport of boxing.
My partner Dennis Principe, Attorney Ed Tolentino, and yours truly will be working the fights for you on Monday. So catch us on the next Round by Round. All boxing, all Filipino, all the time. See you on Monday.